impacts to skincare and to the quality of your skin. And there's internal impacts, external impacts. And when I think internally, I think about, when they say you are what you eat, right?
Yes.
And um, and for me personally, the way I approach, the care for my skin is, what am I ingesting? How am I impacting my body at a cellular
Yeah.
level, right? And and how are we hydrating? Because it's more than just internally. I mean, it's more than just externally putting on a moisturizer, but it's also internally. So I would love to hear kind of like your experience and your thoughts around the, skincare being a part of, your self-care, and what are those biggest impacts that really affect the quality of your skin.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many factors, right? You have the internal and the external, and the foods that we eat are a huge part of our skincare, right? If you put junk in, it's gonna come out. It's
Junk
gonna
is
show
gonna come
itself in
out.
one way or the other. Absolutely.
Yep.
But then there's also so many other factors. Like I think people forget how much
Hmm.
stress affects your skin, right? Stress acne is a real thing. Influxes in your hormones, right? Your cortisol levels, all these different things.
Right.
And if not treated or not addressed, I mean, your skin will always communicate with you. That is the one thing that I always say. It's just if we're
Facts.
listening, right? Our skin is always talking. Are you
Right.
Hmm.
listening? And there's so many things to
Yeah.
look out for. So if you're eating certain foods and your skin's reacting a certain way, for some people it may be oily food, for some people it's too much sugar, for
Right.
some people they're not drinking enough water. We have to be very
Hmm.
intentional. And I think that's a place where sometimes we lack because we're busy. We have a lot going on. We're not
Right.
sitting
Hmm.
or putting too much thought into the things that we're consuming. But when I know when I get a breakout, I'm like, oh baby, what's going
Something's
on?
going on.
Right,
Right,
something's up.
right. You start to
Yes.
evaluate. You
The
evaluate, like,
same.
wait a
Right.
minute, what's triggered this? Because I think you mentioned some great things about, like, oh, for some people it's oily foods, for some others it's, a different kind of type of food. And that's the point, is that it is different for everyone, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's reaction to a type of food is going to be different than, the next person.
Yeah. And it just
Exactly.
reminds
Even
me
for me.
too.
Okay.
Yeah. No, no, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that it reminded me of, when my daughter was around 2 years old, and probably earlier than that, because she was experiencing a lot of skin issues and we were just lathering her up with all sorts of things, and we couldn't figure out what was going on with her. And of course it was due to food allergies. A lot of it, a big piece of it was due to food
Hmm.
allergies. So everything that I was feeding her literally was affecting her, and it was manifesting into eczema and other skin issues that she was having, that
Hmm.
we had to
Wow.
then have to scale back and, like, okay, we had to remove all the different types of foods that she was eating, and then um and then change the type of products that she was using. And I ended up having to do a lot of the stuff myself, because even the products that were out there was affecting her. Like, it was just creating the problem, making the problem even worse. So it's interesting that you did, share that. Yes, it's more than just external factors. It's actually what we ingest a lot of the times.
Yeah, and trying to pinpoint those things is hard because you
It
typically
is
have to start from the
hard.
basics. It's like, is it the detergent? Is it my soap? Is it my lotion? Is it my
Yeah,
food? Like, what is it?
right, right. But it's
How
getting
do
to know
you?
yourself, right? It's
Right.
getting to know, to
Right.
picking those things that's abnormal. It's not what you typically deal with. So why is that happening is the question that you need to start asking, right?
Yeah, I think about, again, because the skin is our largest organ, I'm extremely mindful of what I put on my skin. And so, especially like there's so many products that are just like laden with so many chemicals that aren't good for you. And obviously there are some that, that are natural based and are good. But I personally don't even use sunscreen. I listen to my body. I know when to get enough sun. And when there's too much sun, I step out. I shade.
Yeah.
I
Erica's
I
like, no sunscreen.
I was like, yeah, I
Girl.
was like, I don't know about that. Right. I was like,
no,
wait,
well, I'm like,
Erica's
that's
like,
me.
hold
wait.
up.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't.
Girl,
I
not
don't. I'm
not
like,
even like a SPF 15, like something real
no,
light.
no, I stopped. I
Okay.
stopped. And I was
Okay.
using natural, but I was just like, why? I said, real talk, my ancestors didn't even use this. And they were fine. They were fine. I'm like, a lot of this,
But
skin
global
cancer.
warming, the ozone is gone
Right.
nowadays.
And my
That's
body
all I'm gonna
tells me,
say.
I don't need a barrier between that and vitamin D naturally. Look, Erica, you're not going to convince me. But for those of you out there,
Listen,
please use sunscreen if you feel it in if your spirit calls for that. Do it, please. I'm not encouraging you not to. Okay, don't come at me because I won't care. But again, it just the idea of what are you putting on your skin, because I
Hmm.
I put together my own moisturizing oils to use after I shower. So I don't like to use any kind of other like lotions and stuff, but I do use a moisturizer. There is something. Um,
please.
yeah, yes, no, of course. I'm just not
She's
using
like,
sunscreen,
let's
Erica.
not
Okay.
walk
Right.
around ashy.
At
No,
all.
no, that's no. There's no ash here, no, never. But the idea is, my own concoction of oils. More. You mentioned how your skin sounds the alarm, right? And it's and and there are other things like stress and other triggers for that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I have my own experience, but you're starting your own skincare. Like, what is it that you envision and understand about that? Your skin and what it's trying to tell you, the story behind that.
Yeah, so I'm again, a very big advocate of listening to our bodies. And there's this concept in Chinese medicine called face mapping, right? And it basically means that when you experience breakouts on different parts of your face, it's typically trying to communicate something to you directly
Mm,
specific to a certain part of your body. So, for example, if you have breakouts on your chin and your jawline, that's typically hormonal or something linked to your gut health, for example. Or if you have some breakouts on like your lower cheeks, that's typically related to your lung and respiratory things. Your upper cheeks, it's typically your diet and your food. So again, it's like going the extra mile to do that research. Typically if you have
mm-hmm,
breakouts in between your forehead and that temple area, that's typically like your liver, your kidney, your gallbladder. You probably need to drink some more water.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So I think just being aware of those things, and again, our body's always communicating. So I'm not a big fan of using a lot of products. I have like
right.
my core products that I live by. So if I introduce something into my routine and something is off, oh, I know
Mm-hmm,
you got to
Exactly
go.
what it is.
right.
Yep.
You can
You
pinpoint
have
that.
infiltrated, So
Right.
so I
We
think once
need
you
to
get yourself on
stop.
that routine, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because I noticed for me, my skin breaks out in certain ways if there's a disturbance in the force, right? Like, oh, okay, whether it's okay, I'm approaching that time of the month. Okay, I'm about to menstruate, and it'll be like, oh yeah, I know, yeah, because I have a couple of pimples that came out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, in a couple of days. I'm like, look at the calendar. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then it's also similar to my niece. Uh, it uncovers allergies for me. So the idea of I get, if I'm in direct sunlight for a certain amount of time, I will break out into hives and into a heat rash. And that was when I was using sunscreen. So, no, to everybody who's like,
I was about to
no,
say.
it's not. No,
Erica was
no,
like,
thank you.
I
I
No.
was waiting
told
for
you.
it.
I knew it.
You're wrong. No, has nothing. It's just I cannot sit in direct. I'm a delicate flower, so it's I just go back under the shade, and I always wear like a little visor and stuff. But for
But it's
me,
like a
that's how
heat
my body
rash, though. That's a
reacts.
real
Yeah,
thing.
no, it is. And
Hmm.
one time I was downstairs. When my parents were living in Florida, I was at the pool. I came back upstairs, and I was like, "Who is Quasimodo looking at in the mirror?" I was like, "Who is this person?" It was like these hives that I had. I've never seen this before. I was like, "What is happening?" I was just like sunbathing. What's good?
Yeah,
Yeah, my
yeah.
body told me, like, girl, you're approaching 30. That's what's good. We don't do this anymore. So that's just what it was.
Hmm.
My body was just like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
stop. And so I don't, but I'll sit out in the sun for a little bit again, and then I'll just stop. But that's an allergic reaction to my body telling me, hey, and it's showing up on my skin. And I've also had that with my cat allergies. I didn't even realize I had cat allergies, but it
Mm.
manifested through an egg allergy that I never had before. And I went to my doctor, and she uncovered all of that. But I wouldn't have known that internally my body was. I was producing a lot of cortisol, but I didn't know it was because of my body fighting off this allergy because I have two cats.
Mm.
So my cats were indirectly trying to kill me, but I love them because then I got better. But
Do you still
again,
have
it
them?
manifest. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and I'm fine. I went to my
Okay.
doctor, and
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And she did some acupuncture stuff, and I'm good to go. But that, but it manifested through some, again, hives and allergic reaction to, I thought was to the eggs, but it really was because I hadn't addressed this underlying allergy. So it is really quite fascinating. But you do have to do the work in trying to, you know, address understanding the triggers and isolating that. And so,
Yes.
to our audience and listeners, we always like to close out the same way. There's a lot of noise out there, but our message is consistent. Stop getting distracted by the smoke and mirrors, tune out the noise, and focus on your divine purpose in life. Vibrate higher to elevate your frequency. And always, thank you for listening.